Ryan lives his life by the numbers. He deals in unpaid rent, broken elevators, and the predictable noise of city neighbors. To him, reality is defined by what can be seen, fixed, or built, leaving no room for the supernatural. When he moves into Blackwood Apartments, he finds a building that feels removed from that reality. It is cheap and old, but the silence is what stands out. Even during the day, the hallways have an air of stillness, as if the entire structure is holding its breath. On this architectural floor plan, we can see Ryan's safe zone. For a skeptic, this illuminated box is a fortress of logic. As long as he remains within these four walls, the dark, empty units surrounding him are just vacant floor space. The landlord offers a single, sharp instruction while handing over the keys. Don't wander around at night. When Ryan asks if there are ghosts, the man doesn't smile. He just stares until Ryan looks away. Ryan assumes that because ghosts aren't logical, they can't be dangerous. He relies on his skepticism to act as a physical shield, believing that his disbelief in the building's history makes him immune to whatever happens in the halls. That belief is tested on a rainy Thursday night. At exactly 3:03 a.m., 3 slow, heavy knocks vibrate through the hallway. Ryan checks his phone, sees the time, and waits. He tells himself it's a neighbor or a tenant who lost their keys. By assigning a mundane cause to the noise, he keeps his sense of security intact and goes back to sleep. But the pattern repeats. At 3:03 a.m. the following night, the same 3 knocks return. They sound heavy and deliberate, echoing with a weight that doesn't match the standard apartment doors of the hallway. This diagram shows the spatial relationship between Ryan and the noise. The red pulse originates from deep in the hall, hitting the thick outer wall of his apartment. As long as he stays inside, the perimeter holds, and the threat remains strictly external. Ryan looks through the peephole to find a flickering, empty corridor. Because the door is locked and the hallway is empty, he concludes that the rules of his world are still in effect. Curiosity eventually overrides his caution. On the third night, when the knocks return, Ryan opens his door and steps into the hallway, leaving his safe zone behind. At the far end of the hall, he sees room 307. The door is different, darker, older, and covered in deep scratches that look carved from the inside out. When he asks about the room, his neighbor flees in silence. The landlord finally admits that years ago, at 3:03 a.m., a family was found dead inside that unit, while their child was never seen again. The building's history suggests room 307 is a point of structural failure. In this diagram, we see how the violence inside warps the architectural grid, turning a standard apartment into a void that pulls the rest of the hallway towards its center. Ryan returns to the hallway at 3:03 a.m., following the sound. He reaches the cold wood of room 307, his hand hovering over the claw marks near the handle. By walking to the source of the noise, Ryan moves from observing the building's history to becoming a part of it. He has traded the safety of his apartment for the center of the building's trauma. The knocking stops the moment he touches the door. Then, without a sound, the doorknob turns by itself, and the door creaks open into a dark room. Ryan uses his phone flashlight to see inside. Dust covers rotting furniture and peeling wallpaper, but the beam eventually lands on a message on the far wall. Don't let it out. In the corner, a figure stands with its head touching the ceiling. It is pale, with long arms and a smile that stretches too far across its face. It whispers, "You finally came," as it slowly tilts its head to look at him. The flashlight cuts out. In the pitch black, Ryan hears the sound of something moving toward him with impossible speed. He turns and runs, feeling a rush of cold air against his neck. He slams his apartment door and locks every bolt, gasping for air. He believes that by putting a physical barrier between himself and the room down the hall, he has restored his safety. However, physical locks are designed to keep things out. They are far less effective when you have already invited the threat to follow you back. Ryan begins packing his bags. He assumes that the horror is tied to the building's address, and that by leaving the physical location, he can leave the entity behind. As he stuffs a suitcase, his lights flicker. Then his phone alarm activates, 3:03 a.m. The diagram shows the shift in the trap. The red pulse is no longer coming from the hallway. It originates from inside Ryan's own apartment. The knocking returns, vibrating through his bedroom wall. The sound comes from the closet, just feet away. The creature didn't need to break down his front door. It waited for Ryan to enter its space in room 307. And when he left, it simply moved with him, transitioning into his sanctuary. From behind the closet door, the entity changes its approach. It mimics the weak, crying voice of a child, calling for help. It is weaponizing Ryan's own human instincts against him. Every survival instinct tells him to run, but the sound of the crying voice stops him. He reaches for the closet handle, hoping his logic about the missing child might finally provide an answer. He opens the door to total darkness. Two glowing white eyes snap open in the shadows. A massive, jagged smile stretches across the creature's face as it unfolds its broken limbs. Ryan drops his bags and turns for the exit, but the apartment door slams shut and locks itself. The perimeter he relied on has now become his cage. Police found the apartment empty, with nothing but 3 deep scratch marks on the inside of the closet door. The building was later abandoned, but locals say you can still hear the rhythmic tapping at 3:03 a.m. Ryan's skepticism was a tool for understanding his world, but it was useless for surviving it. He built his safety on the idea of locked doors, forgetting that a trap only works if you are willing to walk inside.